welcome back to another video. So in this video we will discuss about the high availability. So in the Palo Alto you do have two different options. One is the active passive and one is active active. So in this video we are going to look at the active passive. So the conditions are pretty straightforward. Both of the Palo Alto should be identical. So whatever the requirements, it's just only the device should be very much identical. And another thing is that it is recommended, so when you have a Palo Alto 1 and Palo Alto 2, so you do have two different things over here in the high availability. So one, there will be a link. So this will be a HA1 link, which is a control link. Now you can have one or two. So one means only one interface and two means you are having a backup interface. Another link you will say that this is the HA2 link, which is known as a data link. Right, so now HA1 will be used to check whether the device is alive or not, usually just a keep alive messages, and the HA2 will be used to do the config synchronization. Right, so in my topology, I will be using four different ports for this one because since it's a lab, so we do have the ports available. So one port will be interface 1/3, which will be a control link, and the management interface I will use as a control backup link. So for the sorry, not 1/3, 1/4. So 1/4 I will be using 114.1.1.0 network. Now coming to the data link, I will be using two interfaces, 1/5 and 1/6. So this will be the primary and this one will be the backup link, and respectively 115 and 116.1.1.0 network, just to keep things easier. All right, so let's go to the Palo Alto 1, and first what I will do is that on the dashboard I will go to widgets, I will go to system, and I will get the high availability. You see that high availability widget, it says that high HA is not enabled yet. I will do the same thing for the Palo Alto 2. So once that is been done, so let's go to the device, and I will go to the high availability option, and in the general you do have a setup, so let it load. So in the general setup you will select that gear icon and you will enable that HA high availability, and you will give a group ID number 1. I'm selecting the mode as active passive and enabling the config synchronization. And the next thing is that I said that I will be using interface 1/4 as a primary. So it is asking for my peer. So the Palo Alto 1/4 will have 114.1.1.1, and E1/5 will have 115.1.1.1, and E1/6 has 116.1.1.1, and the management will have 172.168.100.21. Similarly, for the Palo Alto 2, management will be 172.168.100.22, and E1/4 will have 114.1.1.2, and E1/5 will have 115.1.1.2, and E1/6 have 116.1.1.2. So now if I go back to my topology configuration, it is asking me for the peer HA1 control link. So the peer control link will be, one will be the management, another one will be the 1/4. As we said, 1/4 will be the primary. So I will say that 114.1.1.2, and the management IP address which will be acting as a backup, 100.22. Okay. Now again select the active passive settings, just click on auto. Okay, elections, I will Now with the elections, the lower the value, it will become the primary. So what I will do, I will select the Palo Alto 1 as 90 and Palo Alto 2 as 100 as a priority. So go back here and I will change to 90. So I'm selecting preempt because whenever the device goes offline and if it's come back online, so it will regain its position status. Heartbeat backups we don't require for the lab, but for the production, yes, you will do enable that one. All right, so there's three things done. So let's go to the HA communication. This is where we will define our control link and the data link. So control link HA1. So by default it is a management. So I will change it to 1/4. You see that I don't see 1/4. So first thing what I have to do is I'd go to the network and go to the interfaces and I will go to the E1/4 and I will select the type as an HA. Click on OK. Do the same thing for 1/5 and I will do like HA and I will do the same thing for 1/6 HA. Alright, I will do the same thing on the Palo Alto number 2 also. 1/4 will be HA. 1/5 will be HA and 1/6 will be HA and OK. So Palo Alto 2 I will commit because I have just enabled the interfaces. That's all good. And but with the Palo Alto 1 we already enabled the high availability. So now my ports are up. So I will go to the high availability HA communication HA1 and I will change that to interface 1/4 and I will give a IP address 114.1.1.1 with subnet 255.255.0. If it is on a different subnet, both the peers. So for example, now you have connected Palo Alto 1 and Palo Alto 2 and those are connected to a router. So your HA communications are on a different peer for both of the Palo Altos, then you will give a default gateway, but most of the time it will be residing on the same subnet, so you do not require the default gateway. But if it is on a different subnet, then you have to provide the default gateway for communication. So click on OK. And again, the backup, as we said, we are going to select as a management. I will select the management, click on OK. All right, so let's go back to general, make sure that these two have been filled up. Now with the data links, I will do the same thing. So Ethernet 1/5 will be my primary, which will be 115.1.1.0, not should be dot one, and the subnet should be 255.255.0, and I will enable the keep alive, and action will be log only. Click on OK. And here I will select the port 1/6 as a backup, and that should be 116.1.1.1 and 255.255.0. Click on OK. Alright, so configuration is done. So let's go to Palo Alto 2 now. Go to the device, high availability, and I will enable it. I will, group ID will be number 1. The peer IP address will be 114.1.1.1 and 172.168.100.21 is the management. Mode will be active passive. And here we have given 14.1.1.2 and the management IP of PA2. Next, I will do the same thing. Active passive, I will click on auto, so check it for every 1 second. Elections, I will say 100, preempt and click on OK. Next, let's go to the HA communication. We will edit and I will select port number 1.1/4, 114.1.1.2. Click on OK. And the backup we said we will be using management, so we will select management. And for the data link, I will select 1/5 as a primary, 115.1.1.2, and I will enable the HA keep alive. And for the backup, I will select 1/6. That should be 106.1.1.2 and click on OK. So configuration is ready. Let's go and commit one by one now. And here also I will go and commit. So I will close this one. You see that the link path and monitoring. So currently that are by default set up for you. And once my high availability is up and running, I should see one more options. So we will see what is that option once the high availability is up and running. All right, so let the configuration be committed. Close this one. I will come back to the dashboard. And since I have enabled the high availability, once it is committed, it should see we should see more options over there. All right, so commit is successful. Complete, and you see that I am seeing that more options. So now currently you see that it already detected the other side because we are committing together and they are finished together. So that was the reason it was able to detect it. So let's go back to the dashboard on the PA2 and you see that it is now became passive. Alright, so now at the bottom over here you see that it says active on the PA1. So if I go back to the PA2 you see that it says passive. And if I come back to the active and now here you see that the local is active, then remote is the, and it is still initializing the HA initialization because the synchronization, the configuration is not synced. So if I go back to PA2 and if I go back to network, so if you remember we created a VPNs and we have configured the IP addresses over here. So once that is been initialized, HA ready, then we can go ahead and do the synchronize. You see that it's now became passive. So I will click on sync to peer, click on yes. It will give a warning saying that the configuration will be overwritten. That's all good. So now let that be finished. So if let me see if that has generated a task or not. No. Synchronization in progress. And now you can see that it's also detecting the operating system which is matching HA1 which is detecting up, HA1 backup which is also up, and HA2 backup which is also up. Now the main issues which I faced was the control link ones. So what I did try to do is that instead of having the control link a dedicated interface or a sub interface, I have given the management as the primary. So once I have given the management as a primary control link, the HA availability did not came up. So I have to give a specific port except from the management, then only the high availability came up. Okay, so the synchronization is still in progress and it is now synchronized. Let's come back here. Let's go back to the dashboard. Verify those settings over here, which has been synchronized. Let's go to the network and still it is there. The config should be overwritten. So the config should have been overwritten. That's okay. But the configuration is being synchronized. So let's go to the device which is I'm on the active one. On the high availability, I said that there will be one more option that will be enabled for you, that is the operation command. So you can suspend the local device for high availability to do the test, check the testing. But let's go to the link path. So link monitoring is by default enabled. So if you click on that one, by default is enabled and it says that condition can be anything. Link group, if you want to define your interfaces over here, which you want to monitor, you can go ahead and define. It's up to you. So link means control link. So we are checking like 4, 5, and 6 because all of them are participating in the high availability ports. Path monitoring is that if you want to monitor a specific route, then you can configure here. But since it's a lab, so I'm least bothered about this one. Now, operational command, for now at the bottom you see that I'm on the active, and the dashboard on the bottom here you see that I'm on the passive here. So let's make this one as the active. So I will go ahead and I will say the suspend local device for high availability. Click on OK and go back to the dashboard, and you see that suspended user requested, and the other peer it has detected and became the active. So at the bottom you see that I have suspended the high availability of the active one, the peer one primary, and the secondary one it's now should become active. So this confirms that the high availability which we configured is working perfectly fine, and you can see that it is active. So I'll go back because we enable the preempt. So I'll go back to the device and I will say that to make local device. So I'm removing from the suspension now. So once it came online, it should become active. So it is still not becoming active. So it became passive, but it did not regain that preempt. And this one is still the active local. But anyhow, it's the virtualization lab, so it might not be working perfectly fine. But if I go back to the PA2 or just give it 2 minutes time, and on after that it should again detect it and it should become an active one here. So I will force it to become active now. So I will go ahead and suspend it, click on OK, come back here. So it became active. Come back here and I will enable that one, high availability, and that should synchronize again and it has become passive. So it will take a little bit time and after that it will do the preamp. That's all good. But I have done the forcefully and I have checked that it is becoming active or passive or not. So I hope this was informative for you and thank you.